Good evening once again, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Tolu Odige. It's a pleasure to welcome you to September 2019 Nextier Power Dialogue. All right. The Nextier Power Dialogue is a monthly discourse with the main objectives to share ideas and information about the sector, to advocate policy positions in the sector, and to highlight key business and investment opportunities in the sector. The theme for this session is electricity tariffs, to review or not. Given the current market issues and complexities, we will discuss the methodology of the multi-year tariff order in an attempt to compare predefined assumptions with existing indices in the industry today. From these discussions, we would attempt to measure stakeholder perception of the 2016 to 2018 minor review, assess the methodology and assumptions on which the tariff model was developed, and evaluate the impact of the upward tariff review on the Nigerian electricity market. In order to increase audience participation and to make the dialogue more interactive, you can also send in your questions with the WhatsApp dedicated number that's on the back of your pamphlets. And please, when you're sending in your questions, please indicate your name at the end of your question. Taking us through our discourse today is our moderator for the day, Dr. Yemi Oke. He obtained his master's in law and PhD degrees from Osgoode Hall Law School, York University, Canada. He obtained his bachelor's in law from University of Ilorin, Nigeria, bachelor's in law from the Nigerian Law School, Abuja. Dr. Oke is an associate professor of energy, electricity law, and pioneering specialist, and a leading expert and scholar in electricity law in Africa. He has authored 3 books on the subject of energy resources and electricity law, including a pioneering book titled Nigerian Electricity Law and Regulation. He is an internationally renowned scholar and author of numerous legal writings under various headings of energy resources, including electricity law and regulation, international environmental law, climate change law, project finance, oil and gas, and minerals and mining law. He was at various times counsel in leading law firms in Nigeria, including Chief Rotimi Williams Chambers, Babalaki & Co., Olaniwo Ajayi, and KPMG Nigeria. In the course of his graduate studies, he taught at the York University and Rising University, both in Ontario, Canada, before joining the Faculty of Law, University of Lagos. Dr. Yemi Oke is also the managing partner and founding partner of MJS Partners, a firm of legal practitioners and consultants. Once again, thank you, and join me in welcoming the moderator to the podium.
Thank you. Let me start by appreciating Nextier and their collaborators for bringing me down here. I definitely hope it's going to be a wonderful time in here. Thank you. Am I now in charge? Thank you very much. I'm not too much of a formal person to the extent that, being a teacher and a practitioner, we always stand up to talk to the audience or the court, and less of formality. I'm not alone today. To join us in today's business, we have eminent personalities. I want to say eminent personalities. These are people I've personally interacted with at the level of knowledge exchange, transaction, policy, law issues, agreeing and disagreeing. Most times we disagree. And yes, most times we disagree. One of such fine gentlemen is, I call him Rumo. Others call him Mr. Bonodi, but is one of the pioneering experts the country is fortunate to have in the power sector. I'm not trying to embarrass him in court, but I can say that of him by virtue of what he's done. The first person to join us in this business, because this is business, to talk about the future of the power sector is serious business because we all are involved and we all are concerned. We are receiving hand of the good and the not good sides of the power sector, so we all are concerned. Mr. Rumundaka Wonode is the founder and CEO of ZKJ Energy Partners Limited. He has well over 2.5 decades, perhaps more, experience in infrastructure, energy markets, and power development. He led the regulatory and transaction monitoring team of the Prudential Task Force on Power, PTFP. In his role, he led the team of the Bureau of Public Enterprises, BPE, and PTFP as part in establishing the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC. But that institution is a pioneering one, about the only best of it in Africa. I will talk more about that. I know so much about them. That's the brain box behind Embed. We'll soon see him live on the stage here. Rum was the pioneering managing director and CEO of the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading PLC, Embed, where he played a critical role, an effective role in implementing, not only implementing, let me add that as in structuring, designing, implementing the trading and commercial framework of Nigeria's transactional electricity market. As a J. Holland Research Fellow at Yale University, he studied the deregulation of North America's power and gas industry. He formerly served as director, wholesale power organization with Constellation Energy Commodities Group, one of North America's largest energy trading firms, and subsequently as director, commercial at Geometric Power Limited. He holds a bachelor's degree in civil engineering from the University of Benin, Nigeria, and an MBA from the prestigious Yale University School of Management, the United States of America. Please, gentlemen, join me in welcoming Mr. Rumundaka Wonode to the podium. So it will be fun against today. Welcome. But we won't fight today because for the first time I'm a referee. So even if I score any goal, it will be an offside goal, it will not be reckoned with. Next is Mr. Mahmoud Aran yet? Not yet. Is he? Okay, so on this way. Okay. Next to join us on this side is Muhammad Wakil. Please don't judge him by his stature. That could be deceptive. He's loaded, talented, and exceptionally brilliant. Mr. Mahmoud is an energy specialist working with the World Bank teams covering Africa and Middle East. His work in Nigeria involves being a co-team lead for the $350 million Nigeria Electrification Project, NEP, with Harry Hay, that's Rural Electrification Agency, and the $486 million Nigeria Electricity Transmission Project, NETAP, with TCN. He is a part of the teams that are currently preparing the $1 billion PSRP, performance-based operation, and the 500 million distribution recovery program. DISTRIP is also working on the World Bank funded project for the West African Power Pool, which involved Nigeria. He previously worked in the power team of the Nigeria Infrastructure Advisory Facility, NIAF, and in the market competition and rates team of the NERC during the most recent MITO major review. Please join me in welcoming Mohammed Wakil to the podium. Welcome, please have your seat here. We are still awaiting the arrival of some. Is here. Okay, fantastic. For Mr. Safuddin, I don't even know where to start. Somebody would know. It's one of the most trusted, consistent, reliable technocrats we have with the regulator. I'm going to share with you a bit of his profile so that you know him in better details. Though sometimes I throw pebbles at them and they have no choice than to absorb it, all in a bid to getting it better in the industry. Mr. Shafuddin Mahmood is the General Manager / Head, Market Competition and Rate, Nigeria Electricity Regulatory Commission. He has over 12 years regulatory experience and has served in various capacities. Various capacities including as the General Manager of Market Analysis and Compliance, as well as Deputy General Manager / Head Financial and Account Analysis Unit. Is a seasoned finance professional. I'm proud to join in NERC that served in various capacities at the Bank of Industry, including as the pioneer head of the Risk Management Division. He holds bachelor and master's degree from the Bayero University in Kano. Please welcome Mr. Shafuddin Mahmood to join us on the podium.
Very good evening. Okay.
Welcome, sir. How do we start? I think the best way to start is to let you know why we're here. And I think I can sit down. Thank you very much. Gentlemen and ladies in the house, why we're here is for one reason, and the reason is simple. We need to engage in a discourse, practical one, as to whether electricity tariff should stay or be reviewed. That has been captioned as, quote, electricity tariff, review or not. I'm not to talk, I'm to listen. And in doing that, I will try to save my head by pushing the task to the panelists, eminently qualified to doing that. And my first question, not targeted at any specific answer, because I really want to learn from them, is Mr. Wonode himself. Mr. Wonode, please, what peculiar challenges would necessarily underpin tariff review in the post-privatization era. Why will increase or review in tariff be necessary after privatization? Why will it be necessary? And if it's not necessary, please.
Thank you very much. And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. And again, let me express my appreciation to Nextier and their sponsors, MacArthur, for keeping this dialogue going for, the time it's been. I've not been here for a little while due to commitments, but I'm very happy to see that it still draws participation from interested people in the industry. Tariff, there are so many reasons why the tariff review is required. First, it's mandatory, it's part of the tariff order in itself, that every year there will be minor adjustments twice in a year to reflect any changes in the macroeconomics, things like inflation, exchange rate, cost of gas, or what have you. So every 6 months, you expect NERC to do a minor review. And the minor review might end up being just nil, nothing. Nothing happens because nothing changed. But it's a required process within the NERC regulatory program. The other part is that, during the privatization, which you mentioned, one of the things in the performance agreement was that government said, look, at any time, we'll make sure that you have a cost-reflective tariff that allows you to recover any investments. And it's based on that when I provide that to you, then I can hold you responsible for things that you need to do. So if the tariff cost-reflective is not in place, then the regulator is hampered from actually applying sanctions as is necessary. And the publishing of the MITO, or the review, 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, actually acknowledged that. It says, look, for 2 years is a mutually non-performance years because NERC for 2 years or 3 did not do any adjustment, right? So once you don't have that, the regulations and the whole thing about holding the discos accountable for service is out of the window, right? So this is overdue, and it's good that it's coming at this time, because what it does is it allows NERC to be emphatic in its regulatory powers. Secondly, it allows the discos to know exactly what debt they actually owe and what is on their balance sheet and what government should take care of. And lastly, for the investors and every other person, they have a view that going forward, this is what they have to pay. So government, NERC, disco investors are all doing very well except the consumers. The tariff, as I've said, is useless to the consumers because in no form does it tell the consumer what level of service to expect. It says that the tariff is for revenue, required revenue for the industry to deliver a service, to pay for gas, to pay for power, to make returns on investment, to pay for market services, for investment in transmission, but no outcome for the consumer. It doesn't say that if you pay this, you get 5 hours of power or supply or 6 hours. It's totally deficient. So the review is welcome, but it is totally needs to be changed when the major methodology changes. It has to have an outcome for consumers so that people can know exactly what tariff payment translates to. I will stop at that for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. His own view, you have noted it. I'm sure Mohammed will have a similar driven perspective.
Thank you very much. Just to add to what Mr. Wanadi has said, electricity has a cost, and if we want electricity, we need to pay for it. There's a question of, okay, what exactly are we paying for? That process of discussing and deciding what we're paying for, that happens in a major review. That is when DISCOs and TCN approach NERC with what amounts to a budget to say this is what we plan on investing over the next few years. This is what we expect our costs to be. This is what we're spending on salaries, operations, maintenance, etc. There's a discussion with the regulator, and the regulator allows what it considers to be the efficient costs of producing electricity to be approved for these market participants, and then that gets passed on to consumers. The last time that this process happened was in 2011/2012. And that process happened with the previous management of the DISCOs, that is the PHCN successor management. Since then, there was a privatization process, ownership has changed, the management has changed, and so I believe it's high time that another major review happened. The MITO methodology suggests that a tariff review can happen every 5 years. And like I pointed out, the last one was 2011-2012. I think it's high time there's another major review process that happens with this new current ownership and, well, with the current management actually, to decide, okay, what are Nigerians paying for today? You know, what is the efficient cost of electricity today, not what was agreed several years ago and is being kind of stretched. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We've heard from Mohammed. Next, we are going to the regulator. And before we go to him, I want him to give us a much more realistic views as to why would review in tariff be necessary at this stage. We've all heard from the perspective of other members of the panel, but we want to hear from somebody who's on the driver's seat. Why do we need to review at this stage? Why would should Nigerians be ready? And when we say review, we are not saying it's going to go up, it could come down. That's what Romo will say. It doesn't, when you say review, it doesn't necessarily mean it is going to go up. So why the review at this time, and what will be the trend, the direction? Is it vertical, horizontal, or... Don't preempt him, please.
Okay,
Over
thank
to
you so
you.
much for the opportunity to be here. Just like Rumo, I haven't been here for quite a while. I think I was last year, almost a year ago, also, probably with you even. I can't remember exactly. So I think the question we should first ask is not really why tariff review, but what is really a tariff? Okay. What is a tariff? Before we talk about the review, we should talk about what is a tariff and why tariff.
When we say what is tariff, we want not too technical.
Not too technical.
The audience, not everybody understand the engineering, the legal language. Plain language.
I want to be very plain.
Most of us, incidentally, everybody is a consumer of salt. Tariff, in the ordinary meaning.
That's the price we pay for a service. Good. Simple. Price we pay for a service. For every service that you have been offered, for every service that you decide to take, for every product you decide to buy, there is a price for it. There is nothing that is free. So I think this will be the beginning of this discussion. Every service has cost, and there is a price for it. The people providing us with electricity, they incur cost, and they have to recover their cost. No one will be in business to lose money. Every businessman is in business to make some money, at least to cover his cost. And there is no business that will survive if it operates based on losses. One day it will wind up, and that will be the end of it. So when we talk of tariff, we are just talking about the cost that these businesses incur. The generation companies, the transmission company, and of course the distribution company or companies. And in between, there are also others that offer a number of other services that make this possible. We don't just have light because someone has generated it and transmission has transmitted
Mr.
it,
Shafidi,
and the distributor.
I also want you to, this is the, let me speak as a Nigerian
Yes.
now. You still have the floor. Let me speak as a Nigerian now. I like your analogy as to the meaning of tariff, saying price will pay for services. Let me just say, yes, I'm a Nigerian. I'm paying no services. How do you react to that? Will it still capture the meaning of tariff within the meaning of your...
I'll read there, because when I say there are also others in between, like you have the Nigerian Bulk Electricity Trading Company, which Rumo headed once. You have the regulator also, who is also there. All these ones are involved in ensuring that you have electricity. Yes, some people will complain that they are paying for darkness. That is the Nigerian slogan.
Well, that's a service too.
we pay for darkness.
Yes.
But generally, that is the meaning of tariff, cost or price for the services being offered. And we all know, all of us go to the market. We buy things. Some of us are business people. We produce things or we provide services. And you'll all agree with me that there is nothing that has been fixed in the last so many years. Things change arising from inflation, arising from issues
Please,
of...
so that we can go to
Okay,
the
arising from issues of
Yes.
exchange rate and all that. So that is why we must review tariff also.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Savdin. We're getting there. We're trying to start gradually. Because to me, even when you talk of tariff, the terminologies will probably vary. You know, he was talking of tariff in the ordinary sense of tariff being price. Romo talked of cost-reflective tariff. You know, that is when you now start to deal with the typologies of tariffs. I will leave that. I'm sure we'll get there so that the audience can start to look at. Is it tariff for darkness, tariff for light, cost-reflective tariff, and other kinds of tariff that we'll have. But starting with Romo, what level of consultation should or ought to be in place with the stakeholders? When I mean stakeholders, everybody in this sector. At all categories of consumer, customers, and other stakeholders. What level of consultation should or ought to be in place before we can even talk of tariff? Even if it's good. No, that's for... That's
No,
for
no, he can go.
No, you start first. He's a biased person. I want to hear from you. He's no longer biased. He used to.
He's no longer biased.
He used to.
Okay.
I'm very biased. I have an opinion, right? I've held an opinion that when we started the reform, we needed to make sure that the private sector got in. And the private sector getting in is not so that they can just make returns. The ultimate aim is that consumers, home and business get served better right? So when you hear us talk about level of service and standard of service, it's still, because if you go to marketing psychology at the end of the day, service drives payment. Places where people pay the most taxes are compliant to paying tax. It's not because they have people chasing them. It's because actually they see the taxes working. So I don't think that metering is the most effective way to drive revenue. I think it's giving people proper service that they can actually see and feel the guilt and the responsibility to pay for that service if it's coming to them. Right? So that's why we're talking about consumer service. We pay everybody in the industry. It will help investors. It will help everyone. So to your question is what level of consultation? We had pushed that DISCOs actually ask DISCOs to take over tariff settings so that they do rate filing, which is that they go to their consumers and offer them something and say, look, we're buying power from the grid at so much, and we're able to send it and sell it to you, offering you 6 hours of power every day.
Sorry, let me get this, because of course the audience also needs to understand. If you're talking of, you are saying when you were there, I'm sure you're talking when you were there, you said you suggested that the DISCO should do rate
We're still
filing.
pushing, both inside and outside as a government, as an individual.
So, no, rate filing as you propose, you are saying the DISCO should be the one to handle the consultation. Was that the intention? Is that what?
That is how it's done everywhere. The utility works for the consumer, right? So they should be able to go out and say to the consumers, we are getting 300 megawatts from the grid, and with that we can give you 4 hours of electricity.
Those who see a distrust there, because even from the viewpoint of labor, these people are the ones to bill me, they're the ones to bring crazy bills, they're the ones that sell all this stuff, darkness to us in court, and then to determine whether there should be an adjustment in tariff, they are saying then they should go and consult. What level of objectivity of consultation are you likely going to see? Still talking about consultation, please.
No, because there's consultation that is done today, is handled and spearheaded by NERC. We think that NERC should manage or supervise the process, but force distribution companies to actually be the ones holding the consultation. So like what you have in Magodo, right? In Magodo, Ikeja Electricity goes out and meets a number of residents, and in discussions with them, agree on a tariff and a level of service, right? And that is why we also think that the DISCO footprint might be too large for single tariffs for everyone, right? So you can put them within electricity tariff jurisdictions or franchise areas and then offer them a service. I'm getting 300 from the grid. I can get additional 20 megawatts from a solar or from an embedded power. You know what? It's going to push you from 35 naira to 40 naira, but it will also move you from 5 hours to 8 hours a day, right? So once you agree with your group of consumers, you file the rate with NERC. And NERC looks at it and can say, look, we agree with this whole thing. All of you in Maitama have come to this agreement, but guess what? There's PAPE that is attached. So if you want this, instead of 40 naira, you have to pay 42, so that those people in PAPE who cannot pay will be allowed to pay 20 naira or thereabout. And that's it. Right? So the idea of...
Let's on that, because language, as you know, power sector is technical, and the audience, of course, we want them to be carried along. Of course, I know a lot of them are also stakeholders. Do I get it? Are you talking of disaggregated tariff or deregulated tariff or multi-layered tariff? Because the Magodo example you cited is not within the regulated tariff framework. Are you saying consultation should develop along that part, or should focus on convincing them to agree unofficial or a different regime of tariff? Or I'm trying to pick your brain on that.
It's a regulated tariff. It is a
regulated.
It's a regulated tariff.
Okay.
It is regulated because you're filing the rate with NERC, which reviews it and approves of that tariff.
Okay.
It's a different thing from going out to a big industrial like Dangote, and I agree with Dangote to supply Dangote cement 40 naira, 50 naira. The regulator has nothing to do with that as far as it does not affect the market. That's eligible customer, and that is strictly not regulated. But we're talking about rate filing, where you're dealing with a group of consumers, you're offering them a service, and then upon that, and that's why I said, you might agree 14 naira with them, come back to NERC, and NERC says, no, there are pockets of some not very well, people who you cannot cut off from the grid, but who might not actually aspire to your 20 hours of electricity.
So who pushes that agenda? Is it the consumers, I mean, the communities now that say, oh, we want to pay more, are you able to give us? Or is it the DISCO that says, oh, let's bring it down? Or who pushes the agenda?
Well, it is the DISCO.
I know it's part of consultation. I agree with you, it's part of consultation.
It's part of the DISCO, and there is nothing that stops a community to approaching a DISCO and saying, look, we have this whole thing, we've come together, and we want you to serve us better. What can you do, right? But the important thing is that whatever that tariff is, it should have a level of service known to consumers at the time that it's being signed off by NERC. I think it's very important. So you talk about restaurant and food. You know, I can't pay for food and come for breakfast and it's not there. And then you send it to my house at 8 p.m., right? So there must be a standard. So if I order breakfast, you must say that my breakfast has to come before 11 a.m. If not, it's no more breakfast.
I must come with burger, pies.
Whatever I ordered, right? So I think that service is okay, but it has to have a standard and it has to have a level. That's really the point we're making.
Fantastic. But Mama, you heard him, you know. He wants his breakfast served in a particular way. What would be your take as to the level or manner of consultation? I mean, now from your perspective as a kind of sector player.
I think I agree with Mr. Wanadi. Consultation is very important, and it's the DISCO that has to lead the consultation. DISCOs are the interface between the sector and the consumer. DISCOs know or should know their customers and should know the kind of service that their customers expect for them. If you're providing a service, you should understand your customer and you should be providing them with the service that they want. Mr. Wanadi said different customers want different services. There are some people that want to have 24 hours electricity. There are some that will be fine with 6 hours a day. And perhaps they should be treated differently.
Magodo, very capacity. If you go to Mushin, you won't have that.
Exactly.
The Magodo people know, he knows, he should have come to Mushin. If you go to Magodo where you have all these beautiful buildings, they say, okay, we can pay slightly more. Are you guaranteeing all that we're going to have like? Yes. But if you go to Mushin, they don't even want to hear from you. So,
but you have to talk to them. You have to talk to them.
Yeah, what manner of consultation. That's why I had the manner, the approach, because I don't know anything. Like, I want to hear from you, the audience perhaps want to hear from you.
You can speak with community leaders. Okay. You can speak with traditional leaders. There's always a path towards communicating with people effectively. But it's the DISCOs that should decide what that method should be. NERC can provide some guidance and approve the process and supervise, but it's the DISCOs that have to do that job.
So is it DISCO? There's danger here, Ferdinand. You see, hope you've seen the conspiracy. They're saying NERC should be sidetracked, ignored.
No, I think that's not what
wait, let me do the they say they're taking over your power. They say it doesn't concern NERC. Let the DISCOs do it. Are they not undermining you?
The rules are very clear.
Okay.
And the DISCOs...
As a consultation now.
The DISCOs are responsible for making these consultations. Before we do any review, they are expected to sit with their customers.
How do you benchmark that? How do you benchmark that? How do you monitor that?
We participate in this stakeholder engagement with them. They are supposed to send us their plan, their program on when, where, and whom they are meeting. And we send our people there. But for this particular review that we have done, you know, this is some 2 years review that has not been done. a number of people will complain or say there was no consultation. Because some have forgotten even when these consultations were held. These are consultations done in 2017, in 2018. And some are done even by the discourse. But one thing we need to consider is the fact that even though these reviews have been done for these years, there has been no increase.
Let me say this.
So in the absence, sorry please, in the absence of an increase, you find that it will be difficult to even make claims of having consultations or not, because most often people complain of no consultation if there are increases or if the reviews will lead to an increase. I accept the fact that whatever will happen, there is need for consultation.
So that's what I wanted to say, because I still need to hear from you and also the audience. If you agree with me, consultation determines the level of acceptability of any review in tariff.
Yes.
So if you have not done that satisfactorily, not to the satisfaction of the discourse, but those consumers or customers, they should feel that they've been carried along, because they're going to see phenomenal level of resistance from them. So if they are not resisting, that means they've been carried along. And now you are trusting the discourse to do it. Or let me also add, are you satisfied with levels of consultation as to previous reviews? And now, do you want them to continue with the same trend as to consultation vis-a-vis the current one, or do you choose to see a slightly different model of consultation?
To be honest with you, we are not really satisfied with the level of consultation done by the discourse. Because if they have really done much, there wouldn't have been so much resistance. There wouldn't have been
That's why you're saying
so
they
much,
should do it.
yeah, arguments on this. But one thing I need to say here, which is very important, there has been no increase in tariff based on this review for those years that have been reviewed. It was 2016 to 2018.
No.
It is the same tariff up to this year.
No.
And those were the years that we reviewed. But what people tend to talk about is the projection of what is going to happen next year. And what is going to happen next year may not necessarily happen next year. Because even this year now, we are going to do a tariff review for 2019, which we haven't done. It is only after we have done the 2019 review, which should be effective January 2020, then people will say, tariff has increased or has gone down. But I accept the fact that the discourse have not done justice in terms of stakeholder engagement and enlightenment. Because if they have done that, people should have known, their customers will have known that we are talking about something that may or may not happen in the future. And it is subject to another review that will happen this year. And it is also subject to government policy also. Okay. Because the government can decide to say, okay, I will subsidize everything.
Okay. Let me look at this way. Assuming now, without considering, that the level of consultation is acceptable or satisfactory, even if it's not acceptable, because something may be satisfactory even though you are not accepting it. Assuming the level of consultation is satisfactory beyond average, what parameters do you consider necessary in MITO? What parameters? I mean, I'll throw that to...
Parameters in terms of what?
In terms of, because when you are, multi-year tariff order, embodies a number of things. to be considered before adjusting either upward or downward.
Okay.
It will talk more. Let's start with that. This is another round of
Okay.
interrogation.
So-
Let me start with Rumo.
Okay.
Because I always want to end with you.
Okay.
Because if I allow you to talk first, you will have prejudiced.
Yeah,
their-
but these
their-
are basic
their
things
view.
which
So
there is
I
nothing
don't,
to it.
I don't want them to hear from
It's
you
the same
first.
thing. They are all
Let me hear
converted
from
to
Rumo.
No, yeah, I mean, he's right. If you go to the MITO, and I think, Mohammed, actually, I think the methodology changed in 2015.
Yes, we're talking about
because,
okay.
because then there were additional factors that were considered, including level of generation, which was not part of it before.
Yeah.
So methodology changed not in 2011, but much later in 2015 or 14 or thereabout. So the factors are what you consider as right there in the MITO: level of generation, foreign exchange, price of input gas, inflation, what have you, right? So once you get there every 6 months, you look at all those things and see how it's changed, whether plus or minus 5%, and then you can make the adjustments. It's straightforward, right? So, which is why, as I said, it's not something that, it's a routine adjustment, right? It's a routine adjustment, and 2 years is not done. It causes a lot of problems for everyone. But, you know, let me say something about, and I keep saying this about level of service. And the point that NEC makes, that there's a review, the prices changed, the tariff is actually gone up. But what he's saying is that the consumers are not going to pay more. The government is going to fill in the gap, right? But the whole problem is inherent in that thing that you're not offering people any service level. So it's very difficult to say why the tariff is going up or is not going anywhere. And let me say this to you. 30 naira, if tomorrow you hear that it's 27 naira, tell me how you're very sure how that impacts what you consume.
So because we want to go to go to the other side now.
If you have a reduction of 2 naira, 5%, 10%, would it make a difference to most people? Do they understand what that tariff is done, right?
Are you saying now, because after you I want to go to, are you saying now we should look in the direction of cost reflective?
I'm just going back to my point. I don't want to leave that point of service level and standards. It just keeps pulling me. It just is is central to my discussions about tariff. That any discussions about this tariff that does not begin to think about standards and level of service for consumers and for everyone, clarity,
Will not fly.
it's not doing the industry a favor. Not just consumers, it's not doing the industry a favor.
Thank you. Let me switch to Mohammed. Are you with him on that point?
Yes.
His zone is service.
Service, yes, that's
Clear and
important.
simple. What are you giving the consumers before you jack up the stuff or reduce it?
Yes, but then that is a conversation, that's a discussion between the customers and the distribution company. There's one thing that you touched on which I'd like us to focus. There is a review, a minor review that has happened, as Mr. Mahmood has mentioned, looking at the fact that the cost of electricity has gone up over the last few years. However, the tariff being charged to the customers has not. And there's a gap. So who is filling the gap? For now, it's government. And there needs to be a discussion about, is this an efficient use of government money? Should government be paying for electricity that you and I are using? Or should government be paying for health, education, roads, etc.? So that's just something we should discuss.
Okay, but then, okay, before I shift, because some are saying that, oh, okay, those of you who are asking them to keep increasing tariff, you have to be very careful. They will keep adjusting up onto the level where generating through diesel and petrol will be cheaper than.
But that won't make sense. That won't make sense.
But let me leave it. Let me not preempt. Everything. Yes, I hear that. Before we move to the audience, please. After yours, you want to go and here, so that we don't make it a monologue here.
Talking about service levels,
Yes.
we have service
So you
standards.
agree with him that service should determine reviews?
Yeah, I do accept that. But you know, we have service standards. We have certain KPIs with these operators ought to maintain. But what is happening is that, yes, a number of them have been unable to keep to these service levels or KPIs, or even they have been able to comply with the provisions of their performance agreement. How do we enforce compliance?
Who does that?
The regulator.
Is it doing that?
The regulator, of course.
Is the regulator doing that?
The regulator has not been doing that effectively. I accept that.
Okay, fine.
Yeah. And why is it happening? Why is it happening? It all falls back to the same thing.
No, because of
yeah,
time.
this is important. Yeah,
no, wait, no.
It is important.
No, his point.
Yes.
The high point of Romo's position is that,
Yes.
okay, objectively, I think it's not averse, it's not disagreeing that there should be a kind of adjustment in tariff. It's not opposed to that. It's saying, okay, 1 minute, before you do that, you must put something on the table. Because you cannot adjust tariff upward on darkness. So people are going to resist. There must be some levels of service rendered. And you are saying, yes, they ought to. Then who monitors that? You say NRC. Is NRC saying doing that satisfactorily? You say not quite. Okay.
That's why
let
I said,
me allow you to land so that I will move to the other side.
That's why I said I need to explain further on that.
Okay. 1 minute, please. 1 minute, please. 1 minute.
Why is that so? The major reason the discourse will complain to you that they don't have the funding to do a lot of these things. And when it comes to funding, what does it translate into? Tariff. They have not been allowed to charge the appropriate tariff. So it is the chicken or the egg.
So and they'll be able to perform by charging more.
And that, they are not charging more. And that was why we have what Rumo mentioned earlier. We consider 2 years as years of even mutual non-performance. If we have allowed them, if we have given them the tariff, which was what the government promised them, by now, by end of this year, I will have said, look, you guys, you have failed. It is 5 years since you have taken these companies. We pay you $1 and you leave.
You want to go? You want to say something?
I just want to say
It is
something.
important.
I want to say something because
30 seconds.
because
30 seconds,
I think that what he's done here is commendable. He's come out and said that regulator, we've not done what we needed to do. But what he didn't tell you was that they were working on a policy of government that said the tariff should not go up.
Should not go up.
So that's the federal government. So really, it's not the regulator per se, but they know there are things that they should have done, and they were hobbled.
I think that it can go up now. After the election, it can go up.
No, this was 2 years ago, so it wasn't. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyway,
I mean, that's not on the table because I've not seen any document that says government instructed the tariff should not go up. But then they will study to determine whether it was appropriate. So there's nothing that on the table that says the federal government has directed because NRC is supposedly independent, right? Let's pause for a while on this side. I'm trying to be careful. We shouldn't make this a monologue here. We don't know it all. We don't even represent the consumers or the investors. We're just representing the respective interests, assets, part or stakeholder. You guys are the real experts because you witness connection, disconnection, reconnection, all kinds of stuff. So both as investors, when you approach the market when dollar was 160, now you have to repay back when dollar is 360. You all have your stories right. Now, what I would suggest, I want to take a couple of questions, not in any particular direction. Please be open-minded. But do one thing for us, please. Direct your question at a particular person so that it doesn't become an offside goal.
Thank you very much. My name is Akin Iwayemi. We're dealing with a very interesting topic, but I think we are just touching the tip of the iceberg.
Okay.
Because the fundamental...
It's just a comment or a question?
Comment, sorry.
Okay.
a comment. Because the fundamental problem is that supply and demand are out of alignment. Okay? And it's a tragedy for Nigeria for the past 20 years, or actually, maybe 40 years, that we have been at this low level equilibrium of 4,000, 3,000 megawatts. So we have to address the problem fundamentally. Tariff is necessary, but there are other fundamental issues in the sector that need to be addressed. You see, when the privatization was about to start, okay, there are certain problems with even those who bought the discos. But you have to look at the value chain. What price should do two things? Give us regular electricity,
Yeah.
give us quality electricity. There are two products that the consumer or the service that is being required. Regular
Quality.
and quality.
Good.
And you have to pay for the two. Because the capacity expansion that you require, whether it's from generation, transmission, or distribution, is huge. Sorry, it's huge. And so that's why this cost-reflecting tariff, you have to ask the question, because even each disco, they charge different prices. How have we arrived at the price at each disco level?
Thank you.
Are they reflecting the cost?
Thank you very
No.
much.
Good evening. I think it's a very interesting
Good
discussion.
evening.
My
Yes.
name is Okiria Agbonsuremi, and I work for Primog. Primog is the Progressive Impact Organization for Community Development. Of course, part of what we do is to interact with the people at the grassroots. And recently we got involved with those consumers of electricity as part of our efforts supported by the Mercator Foundation to track corruption and some of the problems associated with it. Now, I would say that there's a lot of disconnect between the stakeholders at the level of the transmission, generation, distribution, and even the regulators juxtaposed against the consumers. There's a lot of missing links. Now, there's need, I will agree, no doubt that there's need for people to pay, for the consumers to pay for services rendered. Now, what we have is that NEC, or is it NAC? NAC,
It's actually an NRC.
NAC has become an interested party in this matter, and the interest that NAC has in this matter is sub judice. It is one that is a betrayer to the consumers they are supposed to protect. Now, we have interacted, and in another 2 weeks, we are having town hall meetings with people in the community, Peggy community here. You need to go to those communities. I don't think NAC goes there. We have invited them to come, so they join us to talk to the people at the grassroots who consume. Now, because what we are talking about here is if it is necessary to review tariff, if it is necessary, and what are the parameters? And what are we reviewing actually? Are we reviewing tariff to be able to recover costs, or we are reviewing tariff in order for consumers to pay for what they have gotten? I think what we have here is that what is paramount in the interest, which has become the interest of the stakeholders, is to recover costs. They don't care. So this consultation we talk about is very, very necessary. And I don't think the stakeholders are trusted to be able to sit down without the consumer actually being involved. The level of consumption of electricity can be segregated. You can look at the big consumers, like they are doing with the Keja. People in Magodo have plenty of money. You can decide to say, look, you guys are big consumers. You have all the money. You are maybe average or middle class to the high class. What happens to the ordinary people? Now, what happens to the end users who are not provided meters? Because we have to look at all these factors. That's why I agree with the elder who spoke just now, that we need to look at all the factors. What we are just addressing when we are talking about whether it is necessary to increase or not to increase, what we are addressing, it does not touch the consumer's satisfaction that should be the guiding principle. Thank you very much.
I'm Joshua Cruz Tapki. My question is directed to the NEC representative. Like, I'm asking this question as an electricity consumer. What are the constituent components that were actually used to arrive at this current tariff? And also, as a consumer, I would like to know how this constituent formed the whole in percentage of what was used. Then thirdly, I would also like to know what is the stake of the meter I'm using in my house as it relates to this tariff, the services for the meter in my house as it relates to this tariff. Thank you.
Aliyu.
Halilu
Okay.
from Power China. So
From where?
From Power China.
Okay, Power China.
All right. So my question goes to the representative of NAC, Mr. Sharafuddin. Electricity is like, from my understanding, is heavily subsidized by government and by the consumers. So, and we have problem of technical losses, commercial losses. So the discos are not making profit, and then the gencos are not getting paid well. There is a lot of outstanding. In fact, there was a time the government reserved some fund. I think it's about 700 billion naira just to offset some debts of the gencos. So my question is like this. Metering is still very low. Looking at some reports from some years ago, I've not seen a similar report recently, but the metering is very low. I think we have number of people building houses or getting into SMEs, new businesses. There are more than the number of people being metered annually. So what do we do about solving problem of these losses and also problem of metering? And then before we go ahead to start talking about increase in tariff, because you increase the tariff and then people are not even using power, so you still don't get anything from that tariff increase. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aliyu.
Thank you very much.
Your name?
Harrison is my name.
What?
Harrison.
Parson.
Harrison.
Harrison, thank you.
Yeah.
Harrison from?
Okay, I'm a media person.
Thank you, Harrison.
So I direct my question to the NEC representative. Okay, thank you very much. During the course of his remarks, he made mention of the fact that the NEC has not really been efficient in weighing the big stick on the sector, the value chain players. And I'm worried because there are lots of concern. Like this year alone, we've had about up to 10 grid collapse. And you go to the discos, they complain about the TCN. You go there, they keep, there is no proper harmonization in terms of coordination of the value chain players, and it's really rubbing off on the sector. I just want him to speak to the fact that what is NEC going to do differently now? Because, of course, the performance improvement plan and all that, they are submitting it as it were. And we want to see them take that bold step. I don't know, he should be able to speak to this so that at least we can get a sector that we can be proud of. Then secondly, there's been lots of intervention from the government on this sector, and it's really been a bit, I wouldn't know, but because if you look at the balance sheet of the sector players, they are all in negative. I don't know when these interventions could, how we are going to, get about it so that government just keep pouring money and we are not getting the result. I don't know. You could also speak to this. Thank you.
My name is Hassana Bello Aliyu. My question is for NERC. My question is regarding how NERC plans their regulations to ensure that new regulations complement old regulations, and how you time it to ensure that implementation is productive. For example, you've increased tariff. It's going to be difficult for discos to collect an increased tariff for customers who are not metered. So you have MAPS. I don't think MAPS has reached up to 10% implementation. Now you have capping of estimated bills, and you've capped it to a level that is lower than what someone on a meter will be charged. For example, I'm an R2 three-phase customer. I have a meter. And from the capping that I've seen, an R2 three-phase cap is less than what I would normally pay with a meter. So it does not encourage me to be metered. I will not cooperate with the MAP people to bring a meter to my house because my bills are capped. And I know I'm going to be paying a lower bill with estimated cap than with a meter with this new tariff. So do you think you allow your regulations to go into the market be productive before you bring on a new regulation that sometimes conflicts with existing regulations? Thank you. Fine.
No, she asked a
Simply,
question.
the question is,
Yes.
NAC brings out plans regulations.
Good.
One, do they really assess that the new regulation
Good.
complements existing regulations, or if there's going to be a conflict with existing regulations?
Thank you.
Secondly, do they give, when they bring out a new regulation, do they give it enough time to bear fruit and be effective in the market
Good.
before they bring in another regulation that might have conflicting regulations for existing regulations? Is that clear?
Thank you very much.
With the last person, I think that's Hassana
Asana, yes.
Bella Aliu. Hassana, from time to time, we do an impact analysis as to the impact of the regulations we do on the customers, on the operators.
Do you publish report of those impacts?
Some of the things we do publish in our website.
Because they need to know.
So, yeah,
Okay.
some of them may be in our website. I'm not very sure. And of course, most of these regulations are done based on customers' need, based on our perception of what the customer needs, and based on even complaints we receive from customers. And all these regulations are done also based on consultation with all the stakeholders. That's the customers and the operators. You made mention of regulation on capping of estimated billing. As it is now, we don't have that regulation. That regulation is not out. I think what you are talking about is the consultation paper. We have been consulting on that, but as of today, there has been no regulation.
I think
I
our
accept-
question is also exactly. Yes.
We are also not increasing tariff.
Be able to collect that tariff without customers being metered.
Tariff has not been increased. Let us understand this. Tariff has not been increased. There has been no increase in tariff. If there is any person here who can tell me that his tariff from 2008 has changed, I will be 2018 to now has changed. Last year to this year, there has been no change in tariff. Not a single kobo.
Not officially.
Not a single kobo. There has been no change in tariff, official or unofficial. No disco has changed tariff. No disco has changed tariff. So there has been no increase in tariff. So it is important. Please.
Okay, but Asana's question is, I cap it this way. She's worried about seeming lack of regulatory coordination, both in tariff, metering, policies. That's really, to me, yeah, she call it regulatory coordination.
That is a perception. People are complaining about lack of metering. We had consultations. We sought for views of people. And we realized that maybe the best way out is to unbundle metering from the discourse business. And we say, let us create a new set of people that are the meter asset providers that can be able to provide these services. That was why we introduced MAP. I recall talking about MAP 2 years ago in this same forum, saying that that is one of the things we intend to do. We want to introduce new means of acquiring meters or metering into the system. And that's exactly what we did last year. As for capping of estimated billing, we realized that maybe the best way to disincentivize estimated billing is to cap it. Because we, the consumers, or you, the consumers, are complaining that the discourse enjoy dishing out estimated bills. So how do you disincentivize that? Even after you have introduced someone that can provide these meters, cap it in such a way that it will be a disincentive for them. If before they can just come and charge a residence of 3-bedroom that has only one AC, some 20,000 or 40,000 naira. Now maybe they will be charging him only a maximum of 5,000 naira.
Okay, okay. Let's also look at other questions because other
Okay.
members who also want to have one or two things to say before we move to the other. Yes. Harrison's question.
Harrison's question was, when will government intervention stop? I think that was...
Yes, you also talk about coordination and what NRC intends to do differently. And when will government stop the intervention? It seems to him, government is spending more money, even now that the sector is privatized, because the accounts of the players are in red.
You see, it will be difficult for government to stop pumping money into this system until and unless we are willing to pay a cost-reflective tariff. As long as there is a deficit, someone must pay that deficit. It is either government pays or we as consumers pay. And from what I'm hearing now, it's like we aren't willing to pay. Most of us believe or expect that the government should continue supporting this industry. You also asked the question as to what is really discourse cost. I don't know if it was Harrison who asked that, but someone asked what constitutes discourse cost from this tariff. Discourse cost amounts to nothing more than some 20% of the actual tariff. So if today the cost-reflective tariff is 55 naira, what is due to the discourse is just some 12 naira or so. All the others belong to those down, the generators, the transmitters, the transmission company, and of course, the other providing administrative services. So discourse have the least chunk, almost, of these funds. But they are the first we see, because they are the ones who go to collect these monies. They are the only ones within the system that collect money. And they provide services to us as end users. Someone also made mention of the fact that NEC is an interested party. That one, I can't understand how NEC became or become an interested party. So, interested party in what sense? In a positive or...
He's saying that NLC, because I don't call them
Yes.
NEC, because I've had cause to correct the impression that you don't call them back when it's NRC, really. But to me, the question is, NRC seems to be on the side of the players, not the people.
You see, we always have this argument. NERC is in bed with
Maybe there's
discourse.
nothing for them to show. I mean, there's nothing to convince them otherwise.
But when NERC acts, when NERC sacked the board of a disco, no one says anything.
Not
when
yet.
NERC,
Not yet.
not yet, NERC sacked the board of Ibadan, how long ago? Since last year or 2 years ago. When NERC imposed heavy penalties on discos, Abuja is here, Port Harcourt.
But
So many of them.
nothing seems to have changed on the part of the people.
People don't seem to appreciate. But it is important to understand that there are certain things.
Okay, let's go to Joshua's question, because I will still allow the members of the panel to also say something.
What
Though the
was
questions
Joshua's
are not-
question?
Yeah, it says, what are the constituent or component of the current regime, or meaning tariff regime, the current method?
It's a simple thing. Let me be as simple as possible.
It's not because to him,
Yeah.
he doesn't see any reason
I
why
understand. I
that
understand.
should go, because
Yes.
all what they wanted had been envisaged and reflected
Yes.
in the current regime.
Okay,
and that has not worked.
the
So
biggest
what
cost-
do they intend to do differently
Okay.
in the new regime?
No,
What new
understand.
thing are they
The
bringing?
biggest cost, the
Yeah.
biggest cost
Yeah.
to the tariff is generation cost. Rumor was
So the
responsible,
next, the
Rumor
new
here
reg-
was responsible
no,
for that for so many
let's
years.
come to the
Okay.
new regime will now reflect production costs.
No, which new regime? There is not like a new regime.
Anticipated regime.
No. See, the biggest cost is generation. And this generation is priced in dollar, in American dollar. All the generation companies that sign power purchase agreement, they signed it in American dollar. The last time we did, it is 60% or so of the cost. The last time we did this review, the dollar was about 190. From that time to now, it is 360. So just do a simple arithmetic on your own. We can all do that.
So we are now to
From
have
190 to 360 for 60% of the cost.
Sharafdin, let me
Yes.
get it. Are Nigerians to expect, strictly speaking, cost reflective tariff or something close to it? Then, what level of service would necessitate that based on what Rumo has said? Or we to expect that despite no service? No, that's the question really.
Well,
Because you are saying now that, okay, dollar has gone up, all those, so fine. Nobody is contesting that. So now the adjustment will reflect the current rate in naira to dollar. Fine. Then, despite service or lack of it, that's the question they are asking.
despite service or lack of
And
it,
it's not, they are not the
but
only one
that is why we have
Rumo
mutual-
has had the question.
Exactly, but that is why we are saying everyone should have a meter. And that is why we are giving also opportunities to all customers, to all consumers, to on their own, if they want, to go and pay for these meters.
Asana said
also.
even the regime of MAP is even higher than estimated billing, that she would rather go by estimated billing.
Regime of,
No, she said so, because even
no,
that...
what you are saying is because we want to cap estimated billing, that she will prefer not to have a meter.
Then,
Since we are capping estimated billing. That's the perception that a number of people, but we have stated something also. The rule, let it be clear.
No, wait,
by the time the regulation on estimated billing is out, any person who refuses to be metered will not be supplied. Any person who refuses to be metered, based on the belief that he is going to be charged lower.
Thank you very much.
Tariff.
Thank you very much. Well,
He won't have service.
Maybe I should just allow
Yes.
2 minutes in case.
No, let's
we-
do another
we
round
want
of
to-
questions.
Yeah, no, another. We have a lot of questions from the stuff already because I don't know how.
All right, there's a question there.
Okay. Let's have 3 more questions so that we can go to those already sent from our cyber audience.
My name is Shegun Adaju.
Let's recognize the question. 1, yes. Who is 2, 3 in that order, please? Yes, please.
My name is Shegun Adaju. I'm the president of the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. My question will also be to the regulator. At times we find it difficult to understand why it is difficult.
Please, let's make it brief,
Right.
please.
Okay, why it's difficult
Yes.
to maybe take away this cap of regulation. Maybe that's what's affecting the industry. Let me share in 2 seconds my experience in the renewable energy space, off-grid. Also, we should know that almost half of Nigeria is not connected to the grid. So this discussion of if does not apply to them. So now off-grid communities, where we do mini-grids,
140 naira.
where we deploy solar solution, we've seen communities paying 80 naira, 100 naira per kilowatt hour. They are happy to pay. They are using the energy for productive use. Your two is as high as 80 naira per kilowatt hour. So I'm surprised. Why is it so difficult to fully commercialize and allow market forces to take charge of this industry? And we experience what telecoms had experienced. Otherwise, we will perpetually remain at 4,000 megawatts as long as we live. How difficult is it?
Thank
The point I want to make here is, I would not want to hear anybody talking about cost-reflective tariff. You know why? We've not handled performance yet. Let's talk about performance-reflective tariff. Has anybody had an experience where you have a fuse cut? To take them 2 days to come and fix it. Go back, improve on your network, then tell us you want cost-reflective tariff. Nigerians will understand with you.
you. Your name, please.
My name is Isaac Sunday, Engineer Isaac Sunday.
Isaac Sunday.
Yeah, my question goes to the NEC also. Generally, I must put a view across that people will actually repeat what works. For instance, if people pray and they get answer, they would like to pray more. The NEC, you talk about the consultation, that you allow the discourse to go ahead to meet the consumers for consultation, and you send some team across. You get feedback, and the feedback is negative. I get you, sir? Yeah, that you're not comfortable with the feedback. You're not satisfied. Let's just use that. You're not satisfied with the consultation. Yeah, the level, you're not satisfied. Sir, please, do you think, my question to you, is it proper to continue the same form of consultation that is not yielding satisfaction on your part? Because we are having it at the end. Yes, someone talk about the metering system. I think before we go about this tariff, either increase or decrease or stabilization, please, let's look on the metering system. Every Nigerian should be able to have a meter in his house first. Then next, the poor man on the street should be asked if the tariff needs to go up or bring down. Thank you.
Please.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
My name is Ernest Sunday Ugu. My question here is, I direct it to the disco. And why do customers have to pay for meter?
Discos are not here.
The neck. Oh, sorry, the neck. Sorry, the neck. Why do customers have to pay for
Why
the
not? Why not Lumo? Is across, but
yes, across, yes.
everything.
Okay, I direct to him.
Thank you.
Why not the meter go for free? The customer have to pay with their money. At the end of the day, the AEDC or the power generating company will claim they are the owner to that. And the second question goes like this: when last have this code reduce the price tariff in Nigeria? They should tell us, please. We need to know when last, because they are thinking of all this, so we know. And my third question here.
Thank you.
My third question. They talk about the dollar issue. The dollar issue in Nigeria, here we recognize naira. You use as legal tender.
Thank you.
Yes. Now you said because dollar increase, our tariff will be increased.
And
what concerns us with what concerns us when?
Thank you very much. I'm sure the sector is such that we always elicit interesting reactions, comment, concerns from everybody. I mean, that's just nature. I mean, we all are nature. So that shows that the interest and concern in the power sector is everybody's business. And I must appreciate everyone for the level of involvement so far demonstrated. But, Sister Abdin.
Okay. I think...
two for you, one for Rumo.
Okay. I will start with the issue of
let's make it
with the issue of consultation. I will start with the issue of consultation.
Yes.
Yes, we are not really very satisfied with the level of consultation done. But that is part of the reason why now, going forward, for the next review we are doing this year, which is going to be an extraordinary review, which the discourse are applying for, we said they should make this submission together with
extraordinary in what sense, please?
An extraordinary...
No, I will speak their mind.
An extraordinary review will consider other things outside those things that were considered in the minor review. And it will involve changing certain other things aside tariff. Okay. Like some of them are interested in adjusting their tariff classes. So we have asked them to do that. Okay. But they should also make this submission together with the performance improvement plan we ask them to provide.
Thank you.
So in this performance improvement plan, they are supposed to tell us what they intend to do over a given period of time. And they are supposed to do it in consultation with their stakeholders. And we want to see evidence that this has happened.
Okay, thank you. Let's go to Shegun's question about why is it difficult to allow market forces determine the tariff. That's Shegun's question.
That's all the argument here.
No,
I mean, he's saying renewable energy upgrade 80 naira. They are even charging up to 140 naira, and the people are paying.
Yes.
They are not complaining.
They're not complaining because they are getting service.
Here, even those who are getting service.
No, let me put it this way.
Yeah.
Shegun Adaju's position is
Yes.
this. He's saying, yes, that most people are even off-grid, which is the same position I've always taken that. Most of the people are off-grid anyway. Those on-grid also get service through off-grid generator and the rest, that they pay higher rate, but they get the service. Why is it not difficult to ensure that market forces will determine this, that people will get service and pay, which is the same position room has taken? What do you have to that?
Yeah,
to say
but
on that?
this is a gradual process. It is not something that will happen in a day.
No, the challenge. In your own case, you are saying let's increase so that you have service. He's saying no. I think Rumi is also saying no. You know what? Bring service. Get money.
Well, you see, when you say bring service,
get
money.
Yes.
What you fail to
That's what
consider,
they are saying. I'm not the one saying
I
it.
mean, what people fail to consider is that these people selling these things, they don't own it. First, they have to pay for that product. And we are saying this product, as it is now, virtually what they have been asked to collect is almost equivalent to the cost of that product.
Don't you see a danger there?
No, and that's why we are saying that over time, this system is not sustainable. The government cannot continue providing subsidy.
No, don't you see a danger
for
there?
this?
Don't you see a problem there? Because before Romo will talk, because it's been in and out, both at the level of policy, at the level of industrial sector.
Let me come in here. I think really that the current tariff structure, in a way, provides for that.
Yeah.
It allows you to go out and meet consumers and sell them power at any price, depending on an agreement.
The Magodo model.
Right, Magodo model. So it's in there. What NEC has to do is to find ways to encourage this to happen more often than place. So it is there somewhere in the market, and you can do that. But again, you know, Shegu, people are paying because you've offered them a service level. And this is exactly what we're saying. So it comes back, and I keep saying that service level will do much more for revenue than meters. And so the whole thing about estimated billing is that regulations in the market are incentive-based, right? So the incentives of trying to cap estimated billing is to force discos to provide meters. That's the whole idea.
Yeah.
They provide meters. Now, Ms. Bello might decide that she will dodge. When they come to her house, you know, anybody could dodge and not be available so that you don't get a meter because estimated billing is cheaper for you. But there is something that we've not quite addressed. So how does estimated billing happen? Let's take a block of 10 flats, right? And they consume 1,000 units a month. So what would the disco expect is that everybody does 100 units on each one. Now, if you bring meters and put in 5 of the houses, that means that 500 units will be metered, 500 units will be allocated to the other people. Now, if you provide 5 meters and they bypass the meter, right? So 1,000 units get in here, the meters read 250. What does the disco do? It takes the 750 and shares it
So
for...
invariably, metering is not
No,
might not solve the problem.
That's exactly where I'm coming, that metering is not your biggest problem
Might not solve the
because
problem.
people have this tendency to bypass the meter because they feel that the meter is reading no service. I mean, it means nothing if I'm here having this discussion and I get home and it's darkness and I ask, they say, oh, we had power. I didn't know when it was going to come, right? So at the end of the day, the estimated billing issue is also worsened by even provision of meters if people continue to bypass them. Because if you take that up to about 8 flats out of 10, and they bypass it, then 2 might find out that they have to pay 500 or 600 because every other person is doing 50, right? So there is the citizenship, must come together to agree on a way to stop meter bypass because it worsens the estimated billing issue. 60% of meters in Lugbe that World Bank funded, you know that,
Yes,
60%, 80% are all bypassed, right? So provision of meters will not automatically drive this. Of course, everybody can talk about smart meters, but smart meters are not very cheap. They're not expensive. It will go into tariff or somebody will have to pay for it. So I don't know, I'm not providing solution. I'm just providing insights to things that could drive estimated billing and the incentives about what is driving what you have.
Now that you're on meeting, why not answer Sunday's question? Why can't the meter be free?
Well, I think at the end of the day, it's supposed to be free, but there's always been the issue of whether the tariff has provided enough capital for metering for everyone. But understandably, it should be free.
No, I think I'm supporting him on that. And the reason is this. Now, we've already been moving. We moved from CAPME. You know that CAPME now we're in MAP. And really, a smart way would be, give us the meter, then you know how to externalize the cost. That's a field.
I mean...
Because ultimately, you end up paying one way or the other. So why can't it be free? I think, as Sunday said, why can't it be free? It shouldn't be free, then because ultimately you're going to have your money back.
It should be free.
What do you think? Yeah.
It should be free, but you see, there is something that's happened in the, and that's what we're talking about. When you adjust tariff when they are required, it helps bankability in the industry, right? So if you're not adjusting tariff to each level and not providing service to that level, it makes it very difficult to go out to the banks to raise finance to put the things in place, right? So it should be free, but we all know all the issues around raising finance for the industry. But on the issue of dollar and why dollar affects the exchange rate affects the tariff, is basically we don't manufacture turbines. We don't manufacture spare parts. All that operations and maintenance costs, you have to source dollar to do that.
Why can't we manufacture them?
Okay.
I'm not speaking your mind.
Yes. I can ask you.
So I did not train engineers in Nigeria.
We do. I can help you. For all
give them the level environment, can't they manufacture? For big manufacturers down here.
It's very good. There are things that even some countries give up, right? So if you go to turbines, you have GE, Alstom, West Siemens, and you find out that Portugal, Spain, all of them, they don't even produce, not to talk about, so there are a few things that is just as international as they be, right? So if you pay for those things in dollars and you have to service the debt in dollars, every time the Naira depreciates, then you have to raise the tariff to get more Naira to pay for the dollars. That's exactly what it is.
Thank you very much. Let me, do you have something to add? No. Okay. No, the complaint has been funding. Don't you know?
Sorry?
Most of the complaint had been about funding, adequacy of funding, of What's the organization doing about that? That's all earlier.
What's my organization doing about that?
How do you solve the problem for us? Briefly. Bring more dollars. World Bank.
Yes.
They're here.
We're bringing. But World Bank doesn't do anything on its own. World Bank works with the federal government. Right? So there's no such thing as
Is
a
federal
World Bank.
government declining dollars?
Well, I don't know. Federal government has borrowed a certain amount of money. Yes. But, there's a limit to how much it can borrow.
Okay.
And there are decisions that have to be made as to where to put the dollars.
Okay. We have to put the dollars.
Yes.
The pockets are here. Interesting. Honestly, it's a beautiful evening. We feel like continuing, but other stakeholders also have sent in their questions. I will read some of them so that we can spend the next 10 minutes or thereabout to respond to them before we start to wind down. Here, we have question from Wasiri. I will read. Does tariff increase necessarily mean more revenue collection for the disco or more electricity theft? What does the previous trend show? Instead of focusing on tariff review, usually increase, why not focus on collection from consumer using the current tariff? Noting that the non-remittance of proceeds from customer is a major reason cited by the disco for low performance. That's from Wasiri. That's for any of us to any member of the panel? Briefly, because
there is this perception that if you increase the tariff, especially based on the fact that we don't have meters, and the level of even bypassing of metering, that there is the possibility that revenue collection will go down. But based on the last...
No, it's saying, why do you want to increase? Because the problem is theft. Solve the problem, solve theft in terms of collection. Then force this goes to remit.
I don't think that is that's the right way. You can't say because people are stealing that you cannot stop people from stealing. That is the responsibility of the district.
No, they say we should stop. That once we stop,
it is only after that you can...
The money will start coming in.
I don't think so. I don't hold to that.
Okay, let's hear from...
No, I mean, it's back to the same point, right? If, and he has that's a very good observation. But it's like what I said here, that the tariff review is very good for DISCO per se and NERC. So this is for NERC, right? That I give you the tariff so I can catch you. So you cannot make any excuses. I can, as government, BP, everyone can come to DISCO and squeeze them and say, you've gotten your tariff, where's the performance, right? So it's that cat and mouse game of fighting, but at the end of the day, for the consumer, maybe not any additional power, no additional supply, and it does not serve the industry because because there's no service level, people are going to bypass and just feel not obliged to pay extra.
Okay.
That's the truth.
Let's hear from Woman. What's the view?
I just wanted to add here, regarding collection, there's a need for there to be more transparency in what is collected. Really, because...
Who collects? DISCO?
DISCO collects, but how much are they collecting?
So do you mean DISCOs are not transparent?
Well...
Then what's NRC doing about transparency?
That's a good question.
I mean, you can see the connect, right? Somebody is saying there's theft. Yes, we all know. They're collecting, they're not remitting. Does NRC, has it captured or does it have accurate record of actual collection from the district?
As it is now,
accurate.
Yeah,
Is it,
as it is now.
Do you have records of accurate
official collection? Because official collection now goes
the official might not be accurate.
No,
accurate.
Even the discos don't have actual. In that case, when you look at the corruption among staffs, but the actual collection, everything goes to a central account of the disco, and the person that happens at the end of every month
They
is
take-
for the CBN to take its loan repayment.
So
So in that case, we have,
let's take for
Yeah.
question. Interesting. This is an opinion. Let me read it anyway. As a consumer, with the current level of power supply and the difficulty currently experienced in the different sectors of the economy, bank charges, VAT increase, it is totally insensitive for the government to want to inflict more hardship on individuals. An upward tariff review, instead of encouraging me to pay more for an unreliable service, will push me to install alternative renewable power sources for my home and business. Well, that's an opinion. Chinedu says to Mr. Mohamed Wakel, kindly explain how the government closed the gap as a result of differential increase in price of electricity over the years. He's saying tariff has been increasing gradually for some time now. What level of closeness has government been able to close the gap?
there will be nothing like closing the gap as long as inflation continues to rise, as long as exchange rate continues to move up, as long as we fail to meet the projected generation capacity. So as long as these things continue shifting, so changes have to be made.
To Mohammed?
Sir?
Oh, okay, that's true. Mohammed, kindly explain how the government closed the gap as a result of the differential increase in the price of electricity. I'm sure it shouldn't be Mohammed.
No, but I can offer an answer.
Okay.
If you don't.
But it's okay. I mean, we've had his views.
In the last couple of years,
Yes.
the government has been borrowing from CBN to
Yes.
close this gap. So 700 billion naira was borrowed for 2018
Yeah.
and 2017.
Yes.
Another 600 billion naira has been borrowed for 2019 onwards. Before that, and there's a gap that exists before that of about over 400 billion naira. This is money government is obtaining and putting into paying for consumed power instead of other things.
Okay, so the gap is not closed. Okay, let me ask this. My question goes to the NRC man, Mr. Mahmoud. Please, what is the electricity tariff and tariff? That's not, let's skip that. No, let's ask the next one from Mr. Elijah. What is the current cost of generation and distribution of power? And what is the commensurate cost reflective tariff? You're saying, okay, now as a regulator, you must have had a clear view of actual cost, both generation and distribution. What pricing level are we expecting now? What level would that be?
As at 2018, end of 2018, we are talking of 55 naira per kilowatt hour. And that is not what is being charged. The actual average is just 30 something naira. That
so
is being
Rumo,
charged.
is 50 naira per kilowatt hour appropriate or is it expensive? Is it reasonable?
For what service?
Okay.
For what service?
I like that.
I mean, what is service? You know, what's
Even
for what
if
service?
it's higher, the question Rumu will ask is, for what service?
Yeah, exactly.
Interesting. So, what do you say?
I agree with Rumu.
So you disagree with Shafiddin? Everybody's agreeing with you.
You are asking what is the cost, so I'm giving you the cost.
No, somebody is saying now before you increase, what is the actual cost of generation and distribution, and what does that translate in your so-called cost-effective tariff? And you say 50, and Room is saying
55.
Even if it's 55.
Okay, so let's take this because I know that
we just want to take one last question before.
I need to make this because
yes,
it's not that we're not looking at cost of service or cost of anything, right? You might as well go to the market and say you're making me an omelette. Buy 2 eggs and a little salt and everything, and then come in there and pour all the salt in there. It's still the same cost of eggs.
Okay.
But what is it I'm getting, right? So there is a difference between what it costs people to produce power and the service I get. There are two parts, and they have to come together. That's the point we're making. We're not saying that people should not be paid for providing the service. We're saying as consumers, to drive revenue for the industry, there has to be a service level.
Okay, let me ask this last question before I ask for, will the new tariff review prompt NERC to commence the operationalization of PICAF, given that the tariff is expected to be cost reflective from 2020? No PICAF, I've always talked about PICAF.
Power Consumer Assistance Fund.
Assistance fund, which must even be in place before we can even talk of tariff anyway, as I've argued. So what do you say to that, briefly?
What's the question?
We have 2 minutes.
What's the question?
Yes, it's a question. Somebody is saying, no, what will the new tariff prompt NRC to commence the operationalization of the PICAF, that's Power Consumer Assistance Fund, given that the tariff is expected to be cost reflective from 2020?
You see, there are a lot of considerations for the Power Consumer Assistance Fund. Who are funding this? We should understand that it is not only the government that is funding the Power Consumer Assistance Fund.
Will it commence with this review or not?
No, it depends on consultation process.
Okay.
Because at the end of the day, some of the consumers
So it's not likely, it's not likely going to commence?
I'm not saying it is not likely, because at the end of the day, some of us may be paying for that also.
Okay. Thank
And
you.
it will amount to an additional tariff on some of us.
Okay, Rumu, what's your view on that? Should it commence now or later, or what do you think? Pick up.
I don't know. You have to do an identification of the consumers that will benefit on this. There are still a lot that needs to be done in enumeration.
So you don't see it commencing now?
No, so in 20 years' time or 5 years, I think that it's important that we don't tie things to time, but ask what needs to happen before things are done, right? So you need to do enumeration. How long does it take the discos to identify who are these pockets of consumers that require this? So when you've done that and you've identified that, then you can begin thinking about funding and how the disposal. So to come out and say it should start next month, what do you have?
Moment.
Yes.
What do you say? Pick up.
The Act has expectations of how PCAF is supposed to be funded.
Fantastic.
Yes.
That's my view. And it doesn't talk of enumeration.
Yes, so you fund it. No, but you have to know who you're going to be supporting. Which consumers are you supporting? It's not going to be you.
Okay.
You can't be supported from PCAF. So, but
why not?
Because you're not a poor consumer.
I'm a teacher. My reward is in heaven.
Amen.
Okay.
It is important. Sorry, please. Mr. Moderator, if I can say something.
Yes.
It is important when we are talking about PICAP, when we are talking about the poor consumers. Right now, these so-called poor consumers are already being subsidized by the rest that are perceived to be at a higher level also, based on the tariff classification of the discourse.
Thank you.
You have these R1 customers that have been charged 4 naira per kilowatt hour.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We definitely will not be able to exhaust all the questions we've had. But let me have 1 minute apiece for us to give us the high point of your views, like a summary and what you recommend. Electricity tariff review or not? What do you say? And what are you recommending?
Well, I think
action point.
What I want to say is the public.
Briefly, please. We have 1 minute, please.
The public should, in as much as possible, have faith that whatever we are doing is for the benefit of this country, is for the benefit of the citizens. Because at the end of the day, our current system is unsustainable. There is no system that can rely on subsidies.
Okay.
So we have to work and ensure that this cost or the industry is allowed to fully recover its cost. And at the same time, the regulator will work as much as possible to ensure that service standards are maintained. This is a pledge and this is a promise which we have made to this country, and we'll keep to that.
Just your high point.
No, I agree with
your taking point.
That it's important to have a cost-reflective tariff in the market so that people can make investments and recover the cost of investment. But complementary to that is a service level for also the consumer. So the whole value chain, everybody has to get what he or she deserves there, and that's my point. And it would seem that that service level is one that nobody's talking about as much as the others, and that's why we're raising it.
Mohammed, thank you. What do you say?
This question of costs needs to be answered. And the only way to do that is through a MITRE major review. The costs that are in the tariff today were decided in 2011, 2012. Are those the relevant costs in 2019? They were decided by, or they were proposed by PHCN management. Does the new management have, do the new management and the new owners, do they have opinions about what the cost of electricity should be? That needs to happen. That needs to be discussed.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, it's been a long day, and our engagement, forth and back, points to one thing, that we need to review electricity tariff. And that is a matter of inevitable reality. 2, the adjustment to forestall a situation in which we keep adjusting without any positive effect. We should now adjust to make it cost reflective. 3, that before or immediately after, we should ensure that the adjustment reflects service delivery. Also, that the discos should be pinned to their performance improvement plans as basis for determining the rate of the review. I don't know if I've left anything out. I'm sure the organizers will fill in the gaps. On that note, let me appreciate the panelists. Mr. Wanode, I sincerely thank you for your time. Mohammed Shafdin of NRC, thank you very much. Of course, Mr. Wanode is of SKG, Energy Partners Limited. And my brother here, Mohammed Wakil, I really appreciate you for your time. On behalf of the organizers, I thank them for their time. This wouldn't have been possible without active, passionate, consistent demonstration of interest by our viewers and the audience, both here and those who responded by sending questions across through the social media, WhatsApp, Facebook. I don't know how they got all those questions, but we had questions from non-physical platforms. We thank everyone for their time. My job is done. I will step aside as I invite Nextier to come and take over. Thank you very much.
A round of applause for them again, please. Thank you. My name is Godswill of Nextier Power. Thank you so much for taking out the time. Mr. Moderator, panelists, thank you so much for your time and your energy to continue to drive us towards a more cost-reflective market. I know that's quite a political statement to make nowadays, but yeah, we'll try. So thank you so much for taking out the time to join us. For next month, we'll continue to reach out again. We're looking at the 16th of October, every third Wednesday of every month. We'll try to make it a date with all of us to continue to work towards a better sector. We'll also encourage you, our guests, to continue to utilize www.nigeria
electricityhub.com to access industry data and information that will help us in our businesses. Thank you so much for taking out the time, and we encourage our guests to please imbibe proper safety and security measures as you get home. Thank you so much, and have a good night.